Guys, here's the Elon thing, okay? Now, I haven't changed I unequivocally condemn what he did. I do not have sympathy or empathy. I don't think there's nuance there to be interpreted. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, and I think his silence is complicity on the matter. I think if I learned that white supremacist organizations were celebrating something that I did and feeling emboldened and empowered because of it, I would get out in front of that as quickly as I could. If I were Elon and that was a serious awkward gesture that has been misinterpreted by some people, I would be hitting the news networks, every single one of them, on a big press tour saying, I understand how this could be misunderstood. That was not my intent. Here's what my intent was. I really was throwing my heart out to the audience, and I'm sorry for how it's been misinterpreted. I would be doing that. He's not doing that. There's been no issuance of any statement other than criticizing the left for trying to criticize him. I think that's damning. And I think you just put on top of that, the convergence of evidence, right? His support of hard right and neo-Nazi misinformation, disinformation on X, his endorsement of the AfD party in Germany. There's just all the stuff that can be brought to bear here on a condemnation of Elon. But here's the deeper kind of cultural context of this, is that these displays, it's part of the fascist program. This is why neo-Nazi groups hang banners from highway overpasses. This is why they come and march in our communities. This is why they held the Unite the Right rally, where they had their tiki torches and chanted slogans from the Great Replacement theory, a very anti-Judaic conspiracy theory. They do that to normalize their discourse, to normalize a fascist discourse, so that we become accustomed to observing fascist symbols. So they march in the street. So, to get us to think like, oh, well, there are the neo-Nazis marching down the street again. There are the neo-Nazis hanging banners from the highway overpass again. Oh, there are the Nazis giving, the old Third Reich salute to each other again. So the idea, even if it's in small pockets of people, it's to normalize the discourse. That's how it gets a foothold in culture. That's part of the program, is that if we begin to have conversations about the nuances and how do you interpret this salute, and did he really mean it as a salute? Now let's have this whole quote unquote legitimate discourse about what he meant. It is just part of this whole program to put this stuff in our face so that we don't question it and we normalize discourse about it. It's an effort for Nazism and fascism to get a foothold in regular everyday political discourse. That's what we must push back against. So even if you're somehow sympathetic to Elon Musk, which I don't, just from a pure class solidarity, class consciousness standpoint, that dude is fleecing you, taking advantage of you, buying himself into positions of authority, taking on more authority than our elected officials have. It's incredibly anti-democratic. So that you would have any sympathy at all towards Elon is lost on me. But the bigger thing here, even if you're somehow sympathetic and you think, oh, well, that's just a neurodivergent stimming, which I think is very insulting to neurodivergent people, by their own reports, a lot of neurodivergent people have said, I do have stimming, and I've never accidentally stimmed myself into a Third Reich salute. But at any rate, even if you're willing to tolerate what Elon did for some reason, which I disagree with, I unequivocally condemn him. The whole program here is to allow fascism and Nazism to get a foothold in our discourse. That's why they march. That's why they hang banners. That's why they wear paraphernalia. That's why they wear hoodies that say Camp Auschwitz, is to normalize that discourse, to get it in front of us, so that then all of a sudden we'll just be talking about it. Do you know the analogy of the Nazi bar? The Nazi bar analogy goes like this. So you're running bar. Somebody comes in, a customer, maybe you've only been opened a little bit and there's not a lot of other people in there. He sits down at the bar, pretty cool guy, he's funny, he's polite, he pays his tab and he leaves. And over time he becomes a regular, and then at some point you notice, oh man, he's got like a white supremacist Christian nationalist tattoo on him, like Pete Hegseth does, for example. And you're like, man, I don't, that's weird, this guy's always been cool, but I don't know, he's never threatened me. And then a little time after that, he brings in a buddy, and his buddy's cool, and it's like, this guy seems all right, and this other guy seems all right, so I don't know what they're all about, but they seem cool enough. And this goes on for a while. And then after, a while, you're like, holy shit, this has become the Nazi bar. That's the analogy, which is like, you've got to openly condemn unequivocally the stuff as soon as you see it, zero tolerance policy on Nazis. But the effort to put this stuff in our face is to normalize discourse about it so that we become accustomed to seeing fascist symbols in front of us, which allows that ideology to get a foothold. So even if you're somehow willing to extend sympathy to Elon, which I do not understand, and I unequivocally condemn him. But if you're somehow, I understand diversity of thought. If you're willing to extend some sort of empathy and understanding and nuance to that man, okay, that's your choice and right to do that. I think the greater threat, right, is putting these symbols, these signs, this discourse in front of us in an effort to normalize the discourse. So all of a sudden we're the Nazi bar, and we're like, oh yeah, you've got the Republicans, you've got the Democrats, and you've got the independents, and then you've got the fucking Nazis. That's what we need to push back against. So however you feel about Elon himself, however you feel about that salute or awkward gesture itself, the greater program here is how fascism gets a foothold, because we allow the signs, the symbols, the salutes to somehow become normalized in our everyday discourse.